Hey, Dr. Jon Finn here. Welcome to the Habit Mechanic podcast. Right now, you can get my new best-selling book, Train Your Brain for the AI Revolution, at tougherminds.co.uk. The digital book, audiobook, and physical book are all available at a special price that you won't find anywhere else.
Hello there, Habit Mechanics, and welcome to a shorter podcast which has the very specific purpose of helping business owners when they're considering bringing in a keynote speaker or booking some training or training workshops for their organization to help their people. I'm joined by Dr. Jon Finn. John, great to see you again today, and great to talk to you on this podcast. Business owners obviously facing challenging times in terms of the economy, but I know you wanted to do this podcast because also you're receiving an increased volume of feedback. You're hearing more and more from people that people are struggling. People are perhaps even really suffering dire health consequences of the society we live in and some of the experiences they face on a day-to-day basis. So I know you wanted to share some insights to help people choose the right training to tackle these really significant problems they face. It's something that you receive a lot of feedback on, I know.
Yeah, I think all business owners are a unique breed. To run your own business is very, very difficult. I know I've been doing it for over 15 years, and even really resilient, savvy, high-performing business owners that I know are telling me, yeah, it's tough at the moment. It's tough to be at my best, to get up every day and to really sort of put my shoulder to the wheel, so to speak, and give it my best shot. And I think it's clearer now more than ever that mental health, which I just think about as getting people's brains working properly, is absolutely connected to high performance. And we're living in a period of history where it's more important than ever that our people's brains are working really well, because we just have an avalanche of problems that are being thrown our way. And for me, the companies that are most successful in the next period of time won't necessarily be those that are best resourced or that have the smartest people. It will be those that are best at solving complex problems, both for their own organizations and also for their clients. In order to do that, people's brains need to be working really well. And, also the kind of busy work that we do that we call medium charge work, which it's easier to do when your brain's not working particularly well. That stuff's been increasingly automated. And I've had multiple conversations over the last couple of weeks where I've just seen the power of generative AI and how it can easily automate lots of things that we're currently doing manually. So what we need actually is a workforce full of people whose brains are working really well. And we can see high-level data. So in the UK economy, we've got 1.5 million people signed up on the sick with anxiety and depression. In the US, 58 million adults have a mental health diagnosis. And really interestingly, if they get that diagnosis between the ages of 27 to 35, by the time they get to age 50, their average earnings are 24% lower than where they would have been if they hadn't had a mental health diagnosis. So we can see that performance impact when people's brains are not working particularly well. And then really worryingly, we saw some new projections come out recently from the National Health Service that showed that in the next 15 years, they're projecting there will be 9.1 million working age people that have a long-term illness like cancer, depression, anxiety. And that's a 37% increase from where we are right now. And at that point, we're only going to have so in 15 years' time, we'll only have an extra 4% of new people that have entered the workforce. So these are huge problems for business owners. But what business owners can do is be proactive and make sure that they give their people the right support. But the challenge I see is that although there is maybe more options than ever before about helping your people to be at their best, for me, 99.9% of what's available in the marketplace is fundamentally flawed, and it doesn't work because it's based on outdated, flawed theories about what makes humans tick and about what humans actually need to do if they want to and be at their best more often.
Yeah, and I know that you have a 4-point checklist, if you like, for business owners that they should think about when booking anything like this, keynotes, training, workshops, and we're going to share that now, so we can help them. The first one of those is that anything of this nature that they bring into their organization, which, let's face it, will be another cost for them, will be a commitment to do in terms of time as well, and that, of course, creates more cost, is that it should be based on, as you say, the cutting edge understanding of how our brains work.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that, as business owners, we want to make sure that any investment we're making into our business gives us a fantastic return. And to do that, for me, there are 4 things we need to get right. So first of all, anyone you bring into your business to help your people to do better, you want to be asking them how people's brains work and how their training and their offering is going to get your people's brains to work better. When you go to the doctor, you expect them to understand your physiology. And now we've been able to look inside brains for 20, 25 years. We should be expecting people that are selling human development training to understand how their offer actually positively impacts brain function. And the trouble is that most of them don't, and that's why most of the training is flawed, because most of the training is based on the premise that if you can get your people to know what they need to do to sell more products, to be more productive, to be more focused, to be a better team member, to be a better leader, then they'll be able to do it. But new insights from neuroscience and behavioral science show that isn't true. People don't do what they know they need to do. They do what they're in the habit of doing. Because most of what we think and do is automatic or semi-automatic thinking and doing. And that's why the vast majority of traditional self-help training, coaching, coaching where you have a nice conversation but nothing changes, and therapy, it's the same, nice conversation, nothing changes. It doesn't work because it's based on the assumption that if I can get people to know what I want them to do, they'll be able to do it. Well, that's not how we operate. That's why most people don't walk 10,000 steps a day or don't eat 5 portions of fruit and vegetables. And that's why in the UK, the National Health Service spends over half its annual budget treating diseases because people don't do those very basic things. So yeah, that's the first thing. You want to make sure in your interview of the people you're bringing into the organization, ask them, how does the brain work and how's your training going to get my people's brains to work better?
Yeah, well, that's great, John. And that's the foundational insight, if you like, I know that you would share. The second then is to ensure that any training, any keynote, etc., helps people to start to reflect and analyze themselves, to self-watch, as you call it.
Yeah, for me, the holy grail of a high-performing business in the post-COVID world that we live in is that your people understand how to coach themselves. We call that becoming a habit mechanic, because managing people in the remote world is much harder than it used to be, because it's just harder to influence people's behavior, what they think and what they do, when we don't see each other every day. And I think it's also harder to influence people's behavior because people are just being bombarded by an overwhelming amount of information that is causing stress. And it just means their attention is far more fickle than it ever has been. So really the holy grail of helping your people to be at their best is to help them to become self-coaches. We call that becoming a habit mechanic. And the first step to doing that is giving people ways to quickly analyze their own behavior, to quickly analyze what they currently do and currently think, and what is helpful about that for them being at their best and what is unhelpful. And they can start to target the things that are unhelpful. You'll hear many prominent neuroscientists saying now that psychometrics are outdated, they're ineffective, they're about as predictive as horoscopes, and they do more damage than good because they create very fixed mindsets in your workforce. They make people feel bad about themselves because they're pointing out people's limitations. So that's why we created our habit metric tools that are really empowering, self-determining ways of analyzing ourselves. We can use them, we can complete them really quickly, and they're evergreen tools. What I would also be doing as a business owner, I'd be using those same tools when I'm hiring people, because I want to make sure that I'm hiring people with a mindset that is aligned to my organization, which is what we expect in this organization is that you turn up every day and you do your best to be at your best and you work on yourself. And that's going to be essential for you being happy here, because the key actually to being happy is putting in effort and getting rewards. So putting in meaningful effort where you have to delay short-term gratification, but then you get those rewards when you complete a project. You feel good about yourself, not this short-term gratification loops that we're all being sucked into. So I want to be using these assessments when I'm hiring people as well, so to make sure that they're the kind of people that want to work on themselves, that want to turn up and they want to learn and they want to grow. Because the reality is that whichever position you are in the company, the thing that makes you great at your job today isn't necessarily going to make you great at your job in 3 months or in 6 months, because the world is changing so quickly.
Yeah, I think that's nobody could deny that for sure. Now, the third item on the checklist for business owners, if you like, the third thing they should consider then is, does any training or a keynote leave people with practical tools that they can start to work with and implement straight away?
Yeah, I think as a business owner, there's a great you could draw a great parallel. Let's imagine that you know that the way you organize your client data isn't as good as it could be. So you want to bring in a new CRM system. Imagine if then you just brought someone in to talk about the new CRM system and to show what people needed to do, but then they left the room without anything to actually implement those new insights. Of course, you don't do that. You buy the new CRM system, don't you? And you give people a different way to do things every day. When it comes to human performance, it's the equivalent of someone just comes in and tells you what you need to do differently without actually giving you the tools to be able to do that. So that's why we've created our habit mechanic tools. We have over 35 different tools that cover off a whole range of things. And, those tools are a bit like a gym for your mind, where instead of having the physical machines, you've actually got these tools that you can use every day, whether it's to work on the basics like better sleep, better diet, better exercise, or better stress management, or better confidence, or better performance under pressure, or helping your people to unlock their 25-hour brain so they can be more focused and productive and do more high impact work. And that's what we see, is that we can get people, when we get people unlocking their 25-hour brain by using these tools, they're able to do between an extra 20 to 80 hours of high impact work per month, because we have tools to help people to make change. Same for your team. We have team tools, we have leadership development tools as well. But the biggest thing I hear when people leave a training session is, well, that was good, it was interesting, but then I didn't do anything with the information, put the notes in a desk drawer, and then just carried on doing what I always did. The tools we've created are specifically developed to stop that happening, so people actually get to do something differently. And because we have our books and our apps, then people actually have that physical thing to take away with them, so they can continue the journey of making these tiny little changes and building new super habits that make it easier for them to be happier, healthier, and higher performing. So you get huge returns on the investments that you're making in your people.
Yeah, and we can talk more about your models for getting a team to become truly high performing, and the 25-hour brain just at the end in a few moments. But finally, the fourth item on the checklist that any business owner should really be thinking about then is, does any training, does a keynote leave a legacy, in the sense that does it allow people to start building new helpful habits for the long term, which you will be able to advise them, of course, is not an immediate process, but a journey.
Yeah, so the myth is that if we can motivate people to want to do something differently, then that's it. The motivation is going to propel them forwards. But motivation is only one of 9 factors that drive our behavior. These 9 factors are on all the time in your organization. They're on right now. And whatever behaviors you're seeing, when I say behavior, I just mean what people think and what they do, what they're in the habit of doing. So behavior about being negative, or people worrying too much, or people being distracted and lacking that crucial attention to detail, that is being driven by these 9 factors. So we need to help people to understand what these factors are and give them a really simple and practical way to get them working for them, so they can habitualize the new tools or tool that they want to put into practice, like our willpower story, for example. So we help people to do that. We do that so that people don't just leave the session with a better understanding of themselves with science-backed, simple and practical tools. They'll leave the session with a clear plan of what they're going to do to start building new behaviors that make it easier for them to be healthier and happier. And we're empowering the individual to take control there. We're giving them the toolkit so that they can be responsible for their own behavior. And we're training them to become self-coaches. So yeah, again, I don't just want to be asking the people I'm bringing in to help my people, do they know how the brain works? I want to be asking them to unpack the behavioral science for me to show how is your approach, or how you're going to use behavioral science to help our people adopt the things that you say they need to do. And sometimes that's challenging for business owners to understand, because business owners are highly motivated people. We're pretty resilient. And when we want to do something, we can typically will ourselves to do it and push ourselves. But the reality is we're a unique breed, and not everybody is like us. And that's why most people can't change their behavior. So not everybody's like you as a business owner. Not everybody can will themselves to do it. So they need to understand the behavioral science, and they need a sort of a deeper level of planning to really help them to make sustainable change. And we've designed our training so that it does that.
Yeah, well, fantastic. And I know in your keynotes and work with business owners, you'll talk about this notion, this concept of the 25-hour brain, and your team power model as well. And fantastically, you're making yourself available, Jon, to talk to people, to help them design a training session, and you'll consult with them for free. Just tell us how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so if you can book a call or go to the website, contact us. We're happy to give some guidance and advice on this. So if you're looking to design some training to change some things in your business to help your people to be at their best in 2024, then I'm happy to jump on a call and just have a chat. I always enjoy speaking to business owners anyway, but I'll happily give you some guidance on how to get these 4 things activated. And then, if there's any way we can help you for a good fit, if our training works for you, then that's just a bonus. But yeah, happy to give a free consultation if you like, to show you how you can design these things into the systems that you're using to help your people to be at their best. And when we get this training right, it has a huge return on investment for our people. We see that even people that say we are nailing it, or person who says I'm nailing it, I'm highly motivated, I know loads about how to be at my best. When they learn our system, which does cover all those 4 factors, they report still doing an extra hour of focused high impact work per day. That's 5 hours per week. That's 20 hours per month. That's for people that are already saying they're pretty good. People on the other end of the continuum, we can help them to do an extra 4 or 5 hours of high impact work per day. So you get mega returns on investments when you activate these 4 areas.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time today, John. Of course, if people do want to book that call to consult with you, then they can use the link that they'll see in the notes of this podcast, or go to the website tougherminds.co.uk. Very simple and quick process, and they can have a chat with you. John, thanks for your time, and we'll talk to you on the podcast soon. And to everybody else, many thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Habit Mechanic podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe and tell someone else about one of the ideas or insights that you found most interesting.